Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you're well. So in today's video we're going to be talking about my Fujifilm XT3 right here. This is my lovely camera that is my new main camera that I've been using for this year after I sold my Canon 5D Mark IV. And I never thought I'd say that I'd sell my 5D Mark IV because I love that camera, but I love this guy more. And the reason why is it's just so portable, so lightweight. I enjoy the colours that come from this camera. Now I do shoot RAW and I do shoot JPEG on this camera, but I mainly use the RAW files because when I'm in editing, when I'm in Lightroom, you can actually apply those picture profiles to those RAW files, and it's just nice and simple. Like there's a few to choose from. There's some also the up-to-date ones as well. They're on some of the newer cameras. So it's nice to have those, and it really works for my workflow these days. I like more like fine arts or more minimalistic, soft images, sometimes a bit of saturation. I just like to have a camera which I enjoy picking up and using, and this camera, when I got it, was definitely one of those situations. Now at first I wasn't really too happy with the Fuji X system. I purchased the Fujifilm XT3 which you're using to shoot this video on right now, and when I got that camera it had the 16 to 80mm f4 lens, and then I acquired a little bit later on the 10 to 24mm lens. And the problem I always had with those lenses was the sharpness. From the middle it was fine, but as soon as you start to drift away from the middle, it started to get soft. And it was the softness which I could never get any better. I could never improve on. No matter what aperture I used, I could just stop down to f16, or any lens that I've used in the past, even in the Hasselblad, because the Hasselblad lenses weren't perfect. By the way, I've used Hasselblad, I've owned Hasselblad, I've used a variety of cameras over the years because I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm on Fuji X system with the 1.5x crop. I found with the Fuji glass, yeah, no matter what aperture I used, or what focal length I used, or how close I was to the subject, or how far away I was from the subject, it always had the problem of that softness, and I was not happy with it. I was going, if I was able to have working glass that, you know, performed the way I wanted it to do, because I want to be able to sell those images and also, you know, to use them in a book and use them for prints in the future, using it in my videos as well here on YouTube. Take those photos and then you could pan around to show the viewer more of the scene when you want to get some more details. And just seeing that I couldn't do that, and I was going, is this what Fuji cameras are? Is this just the optical quality? Because I also had a look at the GFX system, but I wasn't happy with the glass there. And going from Hasselblad, which are superior in my opinion, and Phase 1, I haven't used the Phase 1, but I do plan on buying one in the future, nothing really came close. But that's all changed when I purchased this guy last year in September when I came to England. I think it was in September, or it was maybe early October, and I picked this guy up with the 23mm f1.4 lens, the version 1 of that, and I just bought it for a bit of fun. I never intended to be taken seriously to replace my Canon system, and it ended up doing just that. So what happened was I ended up buying the camera, I ended up taking it out, and I was just happy with the actual image quality coming from that lens. I was going, well, you know what, I looked at the middle of the frame, I stopped it down to f8, done some handheld shooting, shot on a tripod as well. I took a shot, middle of the frame, sharp, corner, sharp. Maybe we'll be able to use this. Maybe there are lenses that are actually sharp, and they're not rubbish like the 16 to 80mm and the 10 to 24. I'm going, right, well that's kind of interesting. Roll on until about, I think about 4 months, until I got my house here, I got my stuff, and then I actually started going, since I'm so happy with the Fuji, I think I'm going to sell my Canon, which I said I'd never ever do because I was never really happy with other alternatives from Canon or Nikon or anything. I didn't want anything like that. I never really thought of Fuji being one of those cameras. I remember looking at the APS-C cameras and I thought, I couldn't use it professionally, I couldn't use this. I can't see why it would work for me. You know, sometimes you just got to say it, and you have to eat your own words. This camera and these systems have blown me away. And I've now got a setup which I'm very happy with. I've bought lenses, I've sold lenses, and just testing, because reviews online, and I find these days there's a lot of photographers on, or people who make videos on lenses who aren't really experienced in photography and know what to look for them, but they make videos on the lenses, and it's hard to find out who's serious and who's not. There is a few good guys on YouTube, but there's making those videos and seeing the images on YouTube, but then there's another thing, going out there, buying the lenses and using the lenses, seeing how they work for you, and also seeing what the images look like on your computer and how you've processed them, because a lot of those people have different ways of processing the files. They might be just using the JPEG files, which aren't as good as the RAW files. So I ended up buying myself some lenses. So the lenses I've actually got for this camera, one of the lenses we're actually using to shoot the video on, which is the 16 to 55 f2.8, the version 1. And this lens is just stunning. I absolutely love the image quality from this, and the focus is so nice, the sharpness is so nice, even wide open at 2.8, all focal lengths, it's just stellar. And this is one of their red lenses, this is one of their pro lenses, their top of the line lenses, and yeah, I couldn't see why you would actually go for a version 2. It's just absolutely stellar. No embodied stabilization. I think it's just raw and simple, and I love that. All metal construction as well from all of the lenses. I think from the lens barrel, I think that's plastic, but that doesn't matter. It's still a lovely piece of glass. Another lens I've got is this guy right here. This is my 8mm f3.5 lens. This is what I purchased for when I want to do maybe some time-lapse stuff, or when I want to do some really wide shooting. So in full frame format, this is equivalent to a 12mm, which is bloody wide. And what I'm really impressed by is I can use my filter holder with this as well. So with an ultra wide angle filter adapter or filter holder with Lee, I have that on there. There's no vignetting, I can't see my filters, I can't see my holder or anything, even at 8mm, which is just insane. I had the vignetting happen when I had my Canon using the 16 to 35 f4. I could see it coming into frame, and I was very surprised it doesn't happen with this lens, because this is even wider. No, I don't understand, but I'm not complaining, because I can actually use my holders, I can use my filters. I've got a large collection of filters, I've got mist filters, and I've got a large collection of ND filters in there, as you can see. I'm very heavily invested in my filters. I've got other magnetics filters as well, but I don't tend to use those too much. And another recent purchase of mine was this bellows, so I can put this on the front and I can use my ND filters and mist filters, and I don't have to worry about rain or any elements getting on the camera. So this isn't what I was going to feature in the video, but I just want to quickly show you. And to stop any water or droplets getting on the filters, just put a little towel over that and that'll stop any of that, especially when I'm doing my long exposure work. Another lens I've got for the camera is this guy. This is the Samyang 12mm f2. This is a lovely lens. It's not quite sharp as what I'd like, that's why the 8mm is really nice for that. This is still a stellar lens, f2, so it's very, very fast lens. It allows a lot of light to come into the camera and hit that lovely sensor. I bought this mainly for video. It's mainly for the XT4, so that's future stuff, but I would like to have a go at doing some astrophotography with this in the future, as well as the 8mm. So yeah, we'll have to wait until we get to Australia this year, maybe even next year, because I'm going back for business, start my photographic community. I need to get involved in my community. I know a lot of people over in Australia, so that's why I'm doing it. And I need to just rile up everything. I need to be there. I can't really do that too well in the UK. Another lens I've got is the 60mm macro for the camera. This is actually a really nice lens. You can pick these up pretty cheap. The aperture on this lens is f2.4, which is nice and fast, but it does have a cool little feature where when you put it onto 2.4, it actually works out what aperture is required to allow the subject to be in focus as much as possible. I don't know how it does it, I don't know what's happening, but it is pretty cool. The only thing is you can't use filters on this lens, unfortunately. When you've got it turned on, I'll turn it on, the inner bit actually comes out and protrudes. So let's see if it will focus. See it? Yeah. So what I end up doing is using a polarizing filter, just a cheap one, and I put it on the front and I just basically turn it around. Not actually screw it onto the lens because I can't, as I said. Another lens I've got is 100 to 400 right here. This is an absolute beast. A beautiful little bit of kit, this one. It is metal. This barrel here, I think with all the lenses, are plastic, as you can hear there. But if I click here, well, it sounds a bit plasticky, but it is metal. You can feel it's nice and cold to the touch, where that is more warm. But this is still an exceptional lens. Very nice image quality, nice and sharp, wide open at 4.5, and stop it down to 5.6 or f8. You've got a winner on your hands. And since this has got really good optical stabilization in the lens, paired up with the XT3, I've shot handheld stuff down to a 50th of a second at 400mm. Images are nice and sharp. Absolutely stellar lens, and this won't be going anywhere. And just a beautiful front element right there, just showing that off to you. I do have a filter holder adapter on there, so I can actually use like this big guy here on there. Just simple as that. Nice and simple. Well, I like how simple it is and how easy it is to use. Like, to change the camera settings, these are your shutter speeds, but I mainly put it in T, and then I can control by the rear dial on the back of the camera here. And the maximum shutter speed you can do is, I think it's 8,000th of a second. Yep, 8,000th of a second. And the slowest I can do in manual is 15 minutes. I really like being able to do that in manual without having to worry. With Canon it was always down to 30 seconds, but then you did have the built-in bulb timer on the camera. But it was just a bit of a faff. What I do like to use when I want to be more precise with my shutter speeds, a log cable release that you'd use on film cameras, and you can actually screw it in right here on the shutter button, which I find is very cool and very nice. There is a remote port here as well, just right there. I tend to use that more so when I'm using my slider. I've now got a Rhino Arc 2 slider, and it's got the 24-inch slider, and yeah, that is a marvellous bit of kit. And I just plug that into here, and then that all triggers it all. I can't do it for the manual thing up there. It's got a nice big display as well, as you can see right there. Nice button layout here as well, all simple, everything that you need at your fingertips. All of these buttons here are customizable, as you can see there. I've got my histogram there, presets there for the film simulations, and then up there I think is for the IS, because some of the lenses have optical stabilization there. But that's why I've got that one up there. For the function button, I've got that as my designated self timer. I think on the XT4 it's about here. But the problem I do have with this camera, a little bit pronounced from the camera body, you can easily knock it. And when I've had it in the camera bag, I've had the camera fully charged, and I get it out of the bag and it's about half flat, and I'm going, why did that happen? And that was because it was getting bumped around in the camera bag. It's a little thing, and I've got 5 batteries for this anyway. I can charge the camera up by the USB-C port on the side here if I haven't gone over the slots already. So I've got a headphone jack, mic jack. That's the USB-C where I can charge the camera up. I use basically my power bank. I've used pretty good ones, so it's going to be a good power supply for it. I haven't had any problems. And then you've got your mini HDMI jack there. And what I do like about this as well is I can actually take off this door quite easily when I don't. It's easier when I don't have the L bracket on there. See, comes off. So if you're a video guy and you don't want that on there, you don't want it flapping around, you can easily do that just like that. Just pop that back in. It's quite simple. It's just a little thing you pull down here. That just enables a little pin there. It's a little bit hard to do with my big hands, but yeah, we'll just pop that back in. The top of the camera, we've got our exposure compensation right here, which is very nice. We've got our shutter button and our on-off dial there, our custom button, which can set up to be for anything really. We can change our shutter speed right here. Over on this side we can change our ISO, and also we can change the shooting modes. And if we go all the way over, we can also do the bracketing. So if I go all the way over, you can tell how often I use this. We can go into the video, which is right there, which is very nice. And we've also got the trash can and the playback button there. We've got the hot shoe, which is quite handy. You can use a universal trigger or the normal. The rear dial here, which is very nice and tactile. It's flush as well, and but you know, you can easily operate it right there. Nice grip, nice part for your thumb to slot in there, and all nice buttons, nice and simple here, so you can change the angle, so you can come out like that. So this is great when you're shooting vertically, when you're shooting down low, so it's absolutely lovely. And I actually kind of like it like this for this camera. This is why I don't use the XT4, because the XT4 I'd have to angle it and then I'd flip it out this way, and it can get in a bit of a way of the ball head, but this way it doesn't. I can flip it around. Now it's a bit hard with the L bracket because the way that you adjust it, there's a little tab here, but with the L bracket I can't get to it. So what I typically do is do that, and I sort of like grab. It's very fiddly for me. Let's see if I can get it to work. There we go, hang on. Feels like I'm breaking it. I'm just ever so gentle with it. But yeah, then I'm able to do that. So that's great for when I'm shooting in landscape and shooting that way, or if I've got the camera down nice and low, I can do the shutter button with my thumb, and I can also flip it that way, so when I've got the camera up high I can easily adjust, see the settings. The camera is also touchscreen, which is very handy, and you can also turn that off. Everything I need in a camera, I also like to use internal aspect ratios, so such as the 16:9, the 4 to, no, there's no 4 to 3. I wish there was a 4 to 3 aspect ratio. And there is a square crop and the standard 3 to 2 aspect ratio. I like to play with my different crops, and I like to do it in camera, because when I'm on location I can just frame it up that way versus thinking about it later on. But the only way to enable the different aspect ratios is if you shoot in JPEG on the camera. It isn't too much of a problem, and it does apply to the RAW files when you bring it back into Lightroom. So when I import my files, I make sure I've got all the JPEG and RAW files there. But before I import those files, I separate them by the file kind, and I only import the RAW files. The JPEGs I never import. And yeah, it works, and it applies that crop factor to all of those files, the ones that I used on the day when I shot that stuff. Batteries are a little different to my XT4. My XT4 uses these batteries, which are the NPW235. Yeah, pretty different type of battery, where this camera uses these ones right here. They're actually, they work actually really well. I bought a bunch of them second hand. I find they work just fine, and these are the NPW126S batteries. So yeah, they're nice. And how I charge my batteries as well, so I just use a USB charger battery, as I can put my batteries in so like that, and I can actually charge 2 at a time. And with a power bank that I've got most of the time, I can plug that into here, have it on location, be charging my batteries as I'm going through the day, and I'll never run out of power supply for my camera, which is great. I would like to get a different L bracket one day, maybe something a bit more chunky, maybe a bit better. I think this is just a cheap one. I don't think it's branded at all. No branding, so it's just a cheap one. Something a bit more user-friendly, something where I can easily access that part of the camera. You can also use a battery grip with this as well to increase your battery performance and also usability. So if you shoot it vertical a lot, you don't have to try and have your hand like that, you can have it more like that. I'll be using this camera for a number of years, and I look forward to seeing it get wear on it, What does it look like under this? Is it going to be black plastic, or is it going to be like a brass sort of look? Is it going to be nice and rustic? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Easy to keep clean as well, because the shutter doesn't come down, so when the camera's off like it is, the sensor is exposed, but that's absolutely fine. I do all my own sensor cleans. I've been doing them for, crikey, 15 years. I've never ever sent one of my cameras off to have a sensor clean, ever. The only time I've had basically a sensor clean done is when I've accidentally, damaged the sensor or damaged the bypass filter. I've done that once on the Hasselblad, the H4D31. I accidentally damaged that, and I damaged this one. But that's the only damage I've done to sensors over the years. It just works for me, and yeah, I'm really interested to see what it'd be like to do some astrophotography with it. It works great for my time-lapse stuff with it, so I'll share with that. I'll link to some of that down below, so you can go and check out some of the time-lapses that I've done with this. I actually used it in part of my Newcastle time-lapse stuff. Yeah, you'll be able to spot it, I think, at times. Didn't do too many frames because I found back then it would hit the buffer, but now I'm finding with better cards it's a lot better. Head off, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Anyway, I'm Simon, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye for now, and take care.